say. You do need to get these early threats down, I think, to really have any chance, or they just play all their cards, draw, and then very happily kill you. I still think it's a reasonable enough matchup for the Warlock, especially if you have those neophytes in there as well, as we constantly talk about as a disruption mechanism. But 8-mana Giant, the fact that that slows... Oh, sorry, 10-mana Giant as opposed to 8. The fact that that can slow you down 1, maybe even 2 turns is really one of the differences where the nerf makes a big, big difference.
It's true. I do generally favor the Rogue in this matchup as well, because if they go down with one threat of, their first wave of threats, I think is still very doable for Rogue to remove with a good Prize Plunderer to top off a field contact turn. And then a little bit later on, you can just go for Cult Neophyte disruptions as well. Just try to make sure that if they are going to play Soul Rend, either your field contact lives at the end of it because it has Divine Shield, or they can't play one more spell because you Neophyted during the Soul Rend turn. That can make a big difference. And then the Handlock also damages itself quite a bit. So there are situations where you can also just go full aggro and put them at threat of dying to bleeds, even if you're not at the very bottom of your deck. But I will say this opener for blitzchung is a little bit lackluster. None of the card draw mechanics with Shroud of Concealment or Swindle, no Octobot either. I'm thinking this is a type of game plan where he might take Kazakus for a 5-cost Golem, not the usual one that you want to chain with field contact, just to make sure he has some threats going, or maybe the draw 2 cards.
Are we ever considering coin Kazakus Shadow Step on this turn in order to get Kazakus back to your hand, play it next turn, maybe then for a 1-cost Golem, maybe for another 5-cost Golem to just go 5 into 5? Because at the moment, as valuable as Shadow Steps are in the matchup, they're not doing all too much right now.
Yeah, it's a really tough call because aside from Shadow Steps being usable with Ethereal Aug Merchant as redundancy on your combo pieces, again, you only need 2 out of 4 of the Ethereal Aug Merchants and Shadow Steps, as long as one of those 2 is an Aug Merchant, to get the full combo done. They also have a lot of utility with stepping field contact, stepping Prize Plunder, that I feel like blitzchung should hold on to them for a little bit more value.
Fair enough. It does, of course, mean that he has a dead turn here, unfortunately. Looks like the option he got in deal damage to 2 minions, unless the first keyword was poisonous, that's very lackluster. That is not what you're looking for in this matchup, where you want either threats or card draw at this point to find the Octobots and the field contacts.
It is poisonous, though.
Okay.
And I think that does justify going for the deal 3, because I think the amount of times you can get freeze 2 or deal 3 poisonous to 2 is actually kind of underrated in this matchup, because that also buys you a turn. It's an unexpected clear from the handlock that doesn't involve a big Prize Plunder pop-off. And really, blitzchung's just trying to delay until he can finally hit Shroud, finally hit Secret Passage or the field contact. Any one of those, any day now, could help him go off. But for now, I think it's just the Giant.
You think it's just the Golem on this turn to...
the Golem, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my first instinct was definitely to agree with you, but again, I'm a tempo Shadow Step gamer. I want to play the Golem and step it straight away. Like, I know it's a use of a very valuable card, but you don't need both of them. You don't even need any of them to do the combo. 2 Orc Merchants is enough to deal 30 damage, which often isn't even necessary in the matchup. And just think of all the time that could buy you on following turns. Like, it could just be Foxy Brain Freeze here, and then you go Golem and Shadow Step it back straight away when you need next turn, or later on.
It is a very creative way of playing the matchup. Again, I think if he is going to Shadow Step the Giant, it will heavily depend on what the next draw is, because if he finally picks up Field Contact or Passage, I think you give up on the Step Giant game plan. But I keep calling it Giant, so sorry. Golem. But if there's no better target for the Golem, then absolutely, his hand's just not doing anything else, right? And if that's the only way for him to stay alive, then it's gotta be worth it. But for now, Shaxy has access to a lot of self-damage if he wants it, but I don't think this is one of those matchups where you turbo out Tamsin and hope to win off fatigue. If anything, Blightborn Tamsin is more useful as a 7/7 threat.
Yeah, what he needs to do here is, because he can't play 2 Baron Scavengers on this turn. He can't even play 1 unless he just wants to play it for 6 mana. But next turn, he can set up for some very, very powerful plays. He can go for a Netheron here, I believe, right, by resurrecting a Netheron and a Cult Neophyte, which I like. And then next turn, the natural draw up to 10 cards left in deck, double Baron Scavenger, plus 2 Neophytes on the same turn. That is the kind of board that Rogue can really struggle to clear.
Yeah, that's enormous, and it does kind of mean that blitzchung has to think about stepping the Giant. There are interesting choices off the One Thief. I think Mask of Cthulhu is a bait. There is way more healing than in Handlock than that can really justify, I think, spending your entire turn on. The Ignite would be great if he had card draw. I mean, because it can supplement a bit of your bleeds if you need to go for a desperation play. But honestly, I think he needs card draw so badly that I would go for studies here just to find like the Steward of Scrolls, just any discover effect that gets him actual value.
I agree. I think it's studies for Thalnos. You're very, very likely to find it, given there's no spell damage minions in Rogue. And again, the Mask is very, very difficult to play, and the Ignite is just going to keep reshuffling through to your deck, which you don't want. But here we see blitzchung going with the Step Golem play. I love this. I think this is just a great understanding that spell disruption is coming through. You can't rely on that. You can rely on old Golem face here, though, as he is going to be dealing with any big threats that come down turn after turn.
Well, just the next turn, right? Because I don't think you can afford
maybe
to use
again
the last Shadow Step. Well, it depends, because with the Tour Guide in play, Shaxy is not going to just feed blitzchung 2 perfect targets on a silver platter. He's going to play some small minions, try to protect one of the scavengers, maybe not even play both, which means blitzchung will then have to think about, is it worth shooting the Tour Guide with an Aug Merchant just to make sure the Giant has good targets to land on? And if you use an Aug Merchant, you can no longer afford to use Aug Merchant Shadow Step, or either one of those last cards, because your maximum damage will fall below 30.
Yeah, I mean, it would fall to 24, which is probably a little bit sketchy. Like, you might get there against Warlock, but I agree. And so very possibly you're looking to just go for Golem, Step Golem, and leave the 1/1 in play. Like, maybe you miss it and just shoot all the other targets. Either way, you're going to have to get lucky here in one capacity or another.
That's such a terrible draw for blitzchung. I cannot overstate how unlucky he's been. No Shrouds, no Passage, no Contact, no Octobot even, no Swindles. Oh, I'm in shock.
Yeah, it's pretty disastrous, which is, again, why I think this method is the only thing that's actually keeping him in the game, in all honesty, at this point. Tempo Thalnos, absolutely. You just need any card draw you can possibly get your hands on. And now for Shaxy with 12, 18, 20 damage available on this turn. He's creeping up there.
It's so close. He can do the conga line on the Neophyte and get Wind Fury on the Tour Guide as well. But because that's not available, probably still end up with a BGBM in some capacity.
I was looking at it on this turn. Like, you can maybe just get there with tap into Tamsin and then play your Unstable Shadow Blast as well. But clearly your opponent is having trouble clearing this board. Once the Golem is gone, they're really going to struggle then.
Yeah, and the worst part is, even if blitzchung does finally top deck Field Contact, I don't think he has a win condition because there's not enough mana to work with, and the only good procs for the Contact, aside from the Neophyte, are the Aug Merchants. So blitzchung's best outcome here, if he gets the Contact, might just be play the Garrots with the Aug Merchant and just try to draw all the bleeds off the top.
Okay, that's Shroud. This is the kind of hand where maybe if you go like Field Contact, leave it stealthed, they might struggle to kill it. If you then hit Brain Freeze, you can freeze the 6/6, you're still just dead to Battlemaster.
First he needs Plunderer off the top. That's the first part of call. That's not Plunderer, no more mana to work with. That's just game.
I think that's just it, yeah.
Because even if he gets Plunderer, now there's no more Shadow Steps, right? So he'll remove maximum 6 damage from the board, and then he's dead to BGBM. Oh.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Just no mana to work with here. A brutal game for blitzchung that I think he really did the absolute best he could to stay in. Really good understanding of the removal game plan that is available to you, as there is the prize plunderer. But it just wasn't enough. You can stall for as long as you want, but eventually you are going to need your actual win condition. blitzchung found it one turn too late in the Shroud into the Field Contact. And that just gave plenty of time to Shaxy, playing a very simple matchup. Handlock, not the most complicated of decks. I think all the small choices that were available to him, he did play absolutely correctly. When there was a 3-3 on the other side of the board, he went with Touch into Mortal Coil to clear it off, to draw an extra card. The Raised Dead to play an extra Anetheron. You know, again, not especially complicated, but just all done very, very cleanly from Shaxy to make it as difficult as possible for blitzchung to get a foot in the door.
That's right. The Handlock, strangely enough, is the aggressor in this matchup, I find, and they are able to get the threats down online. Even though we didn't really see a giant come into play for Shaxy, just the fact that he turboed through his deck really quickly, used the Soul Rend, even if he was deleting one of his own minions just to get the Scavengers online. I think it was good understanding, but unfortunate that blitzchung's draw didn't really get to showcase, I think, what should be quite proficient skill on this deck. Just the fact that he kind of found the out to even stay alive for a couple turns makes me have high hopes for blitzchung's second chance on this deck.
Me too. Me too. As you were saying, two very good matchups left over with Shaxy's mainly anti-aggro decks that he has left over available to him. With the fairly standard Fell Demon Hunter, he's got the Relentless Pursuits in there, which we're seeing creep in more and more, and then just the Ogremancer Quest Shaman, I guess, is about as funky as it gets from Mr. Shax this week. It makes some amount of sense. Like, you're always going to see in these metas with a lot of spells, Ogremancer, Robes of Protection, Cult Neophyte, obviously the most powerful generally of the bunch. But I don't know, Quest Shaman's a pretty tight list. I am a little surprised to see Ogremancer in this deck that just so heavily wants to rely on chaining these overload effects.
I agree. I've just not really found room even for like the second 3-4, 3-mana 3-4. Like, you either run Marshspawn or Entrap Sorceress, and some people don't run either, like Chonsu, just to make sure that you have room for second Overdraft, which he seems to prefer. It can help you turbo out your quest a little bit better. The Ogremancer is not Earth Elemental either, so on that mana cost, you're paying for Disruption but not progressing your quests, and I find that Earth Elemental should do a pretty similar job of disrupting boards. But we'll see. Shaxy often proves us wrong, but this matchup is going to be a tough one to do so against because Rogue does tend to get there very quickly against Shaman, I find.
It's so tough to say because Shaxy does often prove us wrong, but he often doesn't. Like, sometimes his texts just fall completely flat on their face, which, I don't know, I think it just makes it all the more interesting watching Shaxy. He always has something up his sleeve, and it's fun to debate whether or not we think it's worth it. But in terms of this starting hand, investment opportunity, absolutely agree, not quite premium enough to keep. But with double Diligent Note Taker Lightning Bloom, we could be looking at a very, very fast quest completion.
I love this play. Oh, if he had only hit like Canal Slogger or something,
yeah.
The Note Taker Bloom, Note Taker Bloom, Bloom. It's just fun to kind of chain and get that domino effect. I like the Bloom Keep, of course, because it allows him to get on board as fast as possible, and I do think the Shaman has to be turbo aggressive in this matchup, either with quest completion or just getting on board, trying to generate these powerful board spells like Nothing Can Stop Us is quite strong versus Rogue, and just race the Rogue because Rogue doesn't have any healing. This version from blitzchung is not running any like Shroud of Conceal, not that card. Cloak of Shadows.
Right.
It means the same thing.
It does mean the same thing.
running Cloak of Shadows.
So how do we feel about just Octobot on this turn? Sorry to cut you off there.
No, I mean, I was just about to bring that up. It's actually decent. Like, it takes 2-card combinations from Shaman to get rid of Octobot, 2 or more. You can also just curate an overdraft to get there with enough overload, but more often than not, the most scary thing is just Zapper plus Bolt or Zapper plus Serpentine Portal. And I think because those combinations exist, it's right for blitzchung to not take the risk here. This is quite a good hand to discount. He just needs to wait a little bit longer, but the Feral Spirit top deck from Shaxy is right on time for him to get some significant threatage on board. Honestly, I wanted to play the other Note Taker as well.
Just complete the quest on this turn. Oh.
You just get another 2-3.
Yeah.
It just works.
Maybe it was worth it, huh? I mean, he could go Bloom Note Taker and, like, leave the effect of Note Taker on board, right? Rather than leave a Bloom in hand, which is, I think, what he was considering there.
Yeah. Well, this way he leaves himself 1 mana to overdraft and deal 3 next turn. And then he can go Note Taker, Bloom, whatever he gets off the top. But this is kind of a low value top deck here. So it might not be Bloom anymore at all. Just Novice Zapper, which unlocks without the overdraft. And then you trade the overdraft to get something better.
Yeah, I kind of want to trade this, to be perfectly honest. Like 1 mana deal 3, it's fine. But it's not like Canal Slugger, it's not a Serpent Shrine, it's not another Feral Spirits. Guidance even could be insane here at this point. I just want to progress that quest as quick as I possibly can. I only want Overload cards.
And if that's the case, you might even start Lightning Bloom rather than the trade here, because if you are going to use the quest unlock, it's better to get the unlock on the Bloom for 2 crystals rather than just a Zapper. It really relies on you then getting a good card off of the overdraft trade though. I'm not sure if Shaxy wants to be that aggressive, but it feels to me like the window is closing soon. You've just seen Octobot propped. Okay, gonna go for the Bloom then, so I guess trading the overdraft happens next? Or is he just gonna use it for damage?
Like, you can still just Bloom on 0 mana, right?
True. I guess he's using it for damage then, or copying the overdraft, okay. Oh, okay, I thought he played Note Taker. This order, very sus.
Very sus order. Yeah, like, it costs 0 mana, the Bloom. Just play it at the end. No one will mind. You could have maybe got a charged cooldown on this turn, right? I mean, maybe the mana wouldn't quite have been there, but yeah.
He played Note Taker and a Totem. There was 4 mana here.
Oh, true, yeah.
Charge call for a 5-drop, which is enormous. But anyway, he has managed to swarm the board at least. Blitzchung under quite a bit of pressure. Rep concealment here, because you can get Foxy and then Swindle.
True, yeah, and just leaving minions stealth might be pretty valuable here. Like, for example, if you hit field contact. Oh, are you feeling lucky? Do you want to go for it? Do you not believe in the flame?
They have 1 card. I think it might be Blitzchung's best out. He's under a lot of pressure, right?
I mean, you could go Octobot stealth as well, right? And then you can still go field contact next turn, plus the draw 2.
True. That is just much better. I forgot that the contact would return to his original hand. So in that case, I do much prefer the Octobot. It's still weak to flame, of course.
Whoa!
Oh, okay, so he's just going to step it back to hand, I assume. Okay, so the Swindle goes back to the deck, but he has a cheap contact. He has Octobot in hand. I think this is still pretty good.
Is this better than going Swindle Octobot step the already activated Octobot on board? Like, you could have then had a one mana field contact anyway, right? Because you get a double Octobot proc because your one would be stealth. It would be exactly Perpetual Flame to be able to kill it off, and even then you still have another Octobot in hand.
But then it doesn't. The contact doesn't cost 1 in that case,
2,
right?
and you get an extra Octobot proc.
It's still pretty good, to be fair.
Well, either way, here we go. It needs to be a draw turn now. Obviously, I'm thinking Octobot, and then shoot your own Octobot with the Org Merchant is definitely where my head is at, but he is just going straight up Secret Passage, relying in the heart of his cards to get there.
I mean, either way, you have to rely. The Passage, I think, gets him more odds to hit Prize Plunder, which he does. I think that's the main card he's looking for here, because he doesn't have to spend any mana on cards that are not Prize Plunder at the beginning of the turn. Okay, hits the Shadow Step. This is a big, big swing. Is it gonna be enough? Is there charge call for Shaxy here?
Oh, I mean, that's another big draw. He's clearing off so much on this turn.
Yeah, and then he trades and daggers down the Zapper here.
Yeah.
I guess he's just leaving a 2-3 but tanking 1 less damage. Don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, it's kind of close either way. Well, a few chances now at Perpetual Flame in order to very, very cleanly clear this board.
Arts Investment misses, so now you look in the guidance box. Landslide's also pretty good here.
Misses again. Oi, 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 it's so close.
Yeah, he has to bail now. Just go charge call and then bolt, I think. In my experience, 6 drops tend to be better than 7. And I don't think there's any particular 7 you're looking for here. Do you even bolt the contact? What if you just send it face? Blitzchung's at 11. But he probably kills Shaxy next turn if he doesn't kill the contact. Is
that a thing? Yeah, I mean, can you get any like stealth 6 drops? There's no charges anymore, is there?
Oh, there's the Cursed Vagrant on 7, which has Death Rattle stealth, so it's effectively kill it, or yeah, I mean,
that's a rogue minion though, right? You can't even summon that. Yeah.
True. Taunt?
The Brave is pretty good, I guess. Maybe just some taunt. Fair enough. Okay, okay. And he's going for the clear. Probably sensible, but I liked where your head was at.
Oh, I mean, the contact has to die. I was just wondering if it dies to bolt or the trade, right? Because I'm really thinking Shaxy's best chance to win might just be shipping damage to face here. Like, I wanted this note taker to go face as well. Still has bolt and overdraft in the deck is the thing, and primordial studies.
All right, so blitzchung realistically has to survive one more turn, right? He has, in terms of the minions left in his deck, it's almost guaranteed to get field contact off of this cloak here. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't have lethal next turn, so it's just about surviving for one more turn.
Yeah, but surviving this turn probably means he doesn't get to play the Shroud. It looks like he has to freeze. Freeze or poison shoot. Without any more steps in hand, the prize plunder is really tough to actually get value off of. So I like 1T for Flurry, potentially. Doesn't hit. Gonna look again. Brain Freeze also decent, just trying to survive. Useless stuff.
Oh, it's so close. Okay, you need to snipe one of the real minions. That's the worst one!
Okay, he's alive on board though. Okay. Shaxy can find lethal off of Fireheart, I think. If you get Bolt and then Overdraft, that's 6 damage.
Oh,
and
it's
you have
so
2 more mana to work with. Yeah, it is super specific, but that's the out, right? I mean, if you're not looking for lethal, you're looking for clears, so it's all Fireheart, I think. I guess you can go Serpent Shrine, take some trades, or is that better? Or just Serpent Shrine, don't trade anything?
I'm just trying to run it through because I'm, you know, like you're raising a point that lethal might be your only out, but I'm thinking that praying that, you know, both Shroud, Swindle, and Field Contact are both in like the bottom 4 cards of the deck. Maybe they just brick completely is your best chance of getting the win and try and just go for lethal next turn. Can you get Brucan for next turn?
Oh, only 1 overload card in hand. I mean, the way to get Brucan is also just playing Fireheart here if you manage to land 2 cheap overloads. So I think it's just Serpentine Face. Yeah.
Oh.
It was either Serpentine Face or Fireheart and launch whatever burst spell you got faced, I think.
Yep.
Okay. Blitzchung has Flame Strike for a clear, but no heal.
So if you go Shroud, Octobot, Ethereal, you just don't have mana, do you? It's not there.
No, it's not there. We can take a look at his remaining cards once again. No further way to really discount the hand. There's preparation, but you can only play 1 Garrod. Like, Shaxy's at 30, you need the full shebang here. 2 Garrods and 2 spell damage and all the bleeds. So it has to be a board clear turn and just praying that he's not dead. But Shaxy has this Fireheart and the card off the top to find 4 damage. The healing for 1 was a big deal because he's out of range of... Oh no, not the Ogre-Mancer at this time. Out of range of Rockbiter, out of range of Bolt, out of range of Serpent Shrine. Shaxy 2 more mana to work with.
Oh, he missed!
Alive! He is alive!
1! 1!
I think you just take charge call, yeah?
Yeah. You can go devolving missiles into... There's nothing that damages yourself, right? Like, even the soulbound Ash Tongue doesn't make a difference.
Hyena's battle cry. The Bloodbound Imp needs to attack before it damages. I don't think there's anything that immediately can kill blitzchung here off of devolving missiles, so it is probably just hero power. Hope he lives again. But if it's Octobot field contact off the top for blitzchung, that might just be game. Also, there's just a lot of damage on board as well, so blitzchung doesn't need the full shebang right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, that's kind of why I'm wondering how liberal he can be with just like Octobot Ethereal proc, something like that. Either way, with field contact picked up off the top, surely this is now lethal. Surely.
I think so. I think so. So he goes contact first, so that's one more draw instead of one more mana. That's fine. Because
he still has
Garrote off the top, he can still play the second one. This kit generates him an extra mana here. That's cool.
Clever. Yeah.
Okay. And then he go... Is it Wait. Okay. You can play one Garrote. Is one Garrote all he needs here? Oh, there's the prep. Okay, this is fine.
Yeah.
This is fine.
It's fine. You go prep, Garrote, and then play... Oh, sorry. Ethereal first, sorry. Prep, Garrote, Orc Merchant. It's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's well above lethal because Shaxy's only at 23 to begin with. Man, this was close. Wait, does he have board space? He does, right?
He does, yeah. You can go prep Garrote first, I think, and you're still fine. I'm not exactly sure why you go about it this way, but it still works.
Yeah, it still works. It just misses 2 damage, essentially. Wait, he didn't play the other Garrote. Did he have time? Wait.
He did, right?
Okay. I mean, it's still in the hand.
I'm going to go with spectator issues. There we go.
Okay. Okay. Whew. I almost had a heart attack there. And I'm sure Shaxy did as well. And blitzchung. I've never seen a Fireheart that failed to do 4 damage.
Yeah, we're not in EU anymore. Here, we draw Fungal Fortunes, we play Glowfies on turn 3 for 7 minions, but yeah, our Firehearts leave a little bit to be desired as blitzchung gets the win. I have a couple questions about those last couple turns, if I'm honest. I'm just trying to wonder if he could have gone for Octobot plus the Orc Merchant a couple turns earlier, because he loses out on a spell damage, absolutely, which can be a big deal. But even with one Orc Merchant, you can still deal 24 damage, which I think was looking to be enough at that point, given all the chip damage he would have been able to get. And I wonder if that would have given him the mana flexibility to go in 1 turn earlier with the Shroud into the field contact at that point. It's really tough because then you lose Battlecry minions. Reducing the reducing the Shroud doesn't reduce the cost of your field contact as well, obviously. So I'm far from certain. But I just think it was maybe a little bit of mana to play around with that blitzchung wasn't exploring in those last couple turns.
It's so many revolving parts to this deck, and also just interplay against the Shaman. I'm sure there have been some rogues out there that have gone for not the full combo, saying, oh, my board gets there for the rest of the damage I need. Then the Shaman generates Tidal Wave, they generate Tidal Surge, or they have Canal Slogger, they heal back up. And so you think, my board damage is not permanent, better to be completely safe. But there are situations where you can't afford to be completely safe. Like blitzchung was towing the line there, honestly got really lucky to not be straight up dead to Fireheart. And it just takes a lot of experience, I would say, on the rogue deck to really realize what your best outs are, how many of the combo pieces you can dump. It honestly feels a lot like old OTK Demon Hunter, but possibly even harder, because your card draw is so it's so difficult to actually figure out how much you need of it at once.
Right, like your premier draw engine is also part of your combo a lot of the time. It doesn't have to be necessarily, because you can get there with like Swindle to draw your bleeds. But again, as you say, it's a very, very difficult deck to pilot. And I think while I was being a little critical of blitzchung at the end there, overall his game plan, spot on. Love the way that blitzchung has been playing this series so far, and I think shows good understanding of the deck. But he's not going to need to do it anymore because it's ticked off the list. Garrote Rogue done. Moving on to the Fell Demon Hunter now instead. And he's got kind of the old school list, I think, or I'll call it like the classic list, because it's still very much a valid way to go about it with the Fell Gorge as the Chaos Leech in there as well. Not running Zai, as some players are doing over in Europe, and not running the Relentless Pursuits, as Shaxy is doing. Instead going for, I guess, a slightly more robust anti-aggro list that still can do a lot of burst with Il'gynoth and Jace.
Yeah, I think the only slightly newer inclusion was the Sigil of Alacrity, which wasn't in the very, very first lists of the Fell Demon Hunter, but all the lists I like run it indeed. The Il'gynoth still in there, like you were saying. Shaxy is running Relentless Pursuit and 2 copies even, which honestly functions as a heal and burst card because you almost never play it unless you have the Warblades to go along with it, because the swing potential is just so huge.
Yeah.
It doesn't really get into the Jace pool, but that extra flexible healing that also functions as removal can be useful indeed. In the mirror, though, I really wonder about how the interplay goes, because both players can yo-yo their health totals up and down, that it feels like if you don't actually discount Jace off of Skull or Il'gynoth and try to play them both at once, that it can really go either way.
It can. Yeah. This can get to be a very, very funky matchup. We've seen it go the straight up combo route, where you draw 3 mana Il'gynoth, burst your opponent down. We've seen it go for the very, very scrappy route, where both Il'gynoths get cleared, Jaces get cleared, and you're kind of just slapping each other with wet noodles at that point, with no real win condition to either deck. But I do think it is a very, very skill-testing matchup. And quite clearly, Shaxy is showing good understanding of the matchup with Skull ready to go in outcast position. That's pretty much the premier thing you're looking to do in these early turns, I find.
And blitzchung has an Il'gynoth in the opening hand, and it's kind of locking out any potential Skull from the right from being outcast. But the crucial thing to note is that both players have one of the potential OTK cards in their opening hand, right? So they cannot be Skulled or discounted, the Jace and the Il'gynoth.
True.
So we might not see the cheese outcome to this matchup where one player actually does get to kill in one fell swoop. There's no Zayas as well. So it is going to have to be a resource battle and might come down to fatigue.
And I'm not even sure if, you're not happy with this hand from blitzchung, obviously, don't get me wrong. But I'm wondering if it's kind of the case where back in the old OTK Demon Hunter days, drawing all your combo pieces, while bad, you could sometimes make lemonade out of those lemons. You had a lot of the combo pieces in hand. You could go for kind of a halfway combo quite easily. And just like curving out Il'gynoth into Jace, if he can find some damage spells, is that ever a consideration in the matchup?
Definitely a consideration. If blitzchung has nothing better to do, I figure then you can just tempo out the Il'gynoth. And by that I mean it's probably a last resort type of play if he feels like he's so far behind that Shaxy's winning in the resource race that you just have to pray that the Il'gynoth sticks. But if both players are aware of the possibility of tempo Il'gynoth, it should never stick. All you have to do is hold on to like a Moarg Fell Barrage, something like that.
Well, look at this. A tale of two skulls. It was the best of times, and it was most certainly the worst of times, because both currently in the outcast position, but for Shaxy, it's the absolute dream. Coin Skull next turn, hoping to find as many combo pieces as possible. blitzchung, no chance this Skull is getting outcasted. It would have to be a very, very specific series of draws.
Because of that, is he just meant to play Metamorphosis, spend your mana? He's down surprisingly quick to 17 because Shaxy has gone for the most satisfying play in Hearthstone. Subtle, at least. Talented Arcanist plus the Fell Barrage. And with the Fury expended as well, Shaxy is just trying to put pressure on blitzchung without the expectation that it really does anything. Because blitzchung should have a lot of healing.
Yeah.
But maybe it can get there with a timely Jace.
Oh man, just look at all this damage though from Shaxy. Like he's got Fury and Chaos Strike in the pool for Jace. Obviously, as we said, Relentless Pursuit doesn't repeatedly get played, but just Aldraki, Relentless Pursuit into Jace, like unless some strong healing comes through for blitzchung, it could start to get a little bit scary.
Because you mentioned strong healing, I was expecting blitzchung to go for Aldraki Warblade's Fury there. But then I guess he has to face tank the minion, so maybe he's just gonna save the weapon for next turn. Oh my god.
Hello? That's not legal.
Nope. Definitely not. Guess he just dumped some cards now. Everyone with the Moarg.
I agree. I-beam Immo. Gorgeous. Like, if you hit... You don't even have to hit Il'gynoth. If you just hit a talented Arcanist, you're very, very close to lethal already at that point.
Wow, is he just throwing away a 0-mana Moarg? Feels to me like it's a way more valuable resource than an Immolation Aura.
Agreed. As does a 0-mana I-beam. Like, saving the Immolation Aura for 0-mana is like the last thing I wanted. I guess it allows him to clear off his own Moarg at the end, because you don't especially want to leave Moargs on the board in this matchup because of the fear of combo on the other side. But it's still a little sus.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking there, you play I-beam Immo, and then yes, you have to dump one more card off the skull, but I felt like that was reasonably likely.
Yeah.
Actually going for the uber safe play of, in case he doesn't get any dumpable card, fit the Moarg in as well, and also make sure the Moarg is off the board by the end of the turn, but I felt like it was worth the risk.
Yeah, agree completely.
Okay, anyway, blitzchung healing back up, as we often have said, is how the matchup works. Fury rank 2 played for him as well. Sigil runner for Shaxy if he wants it, unless... I mean, he can't play for fatigue, right? Like, he's too far deep compared to blitzchung. You just... chain threats from this point, yeah.
He's very much just on the chain threat game plan, which is where I guess the best chance for blitzchung comes into play, because even with Il'gynoth, Fellscream Blast, Moarg, and Talented Arcanist, obviously it's 11 mana at this point, even without a second Moarg or Talented Arcanist to get up to actually 30 damage. So healing, I think, as you said, is really his best chance. He just needs to outlast this damage, and maybe if his opponent missed the discount on all the combo cards, he'll be able to get there.
And if that's the case, should he just take the skull to play the skull non-outcast to make sure he has resources going forward? I guess not. He's Jacing. This is pretty early. He has played Chaos Strike and a meta and Fury rank 2 at the minimum, so he'll be able to push a lot of damage towards Shaxy instead here.
Yeah, it's a pretty big heal at the same time, right? He's
Yeah.
Almost guaranteed to heal to full, I think, here. Yeah, there we go. All the way back up to 30. And then another Metamorphosis. Chaos Strike with Il'gynoth as well. If he can get himself another Aldraki Warblades. You know, it's coming together.
But for Shaxy, he can heal this back up with his own Jace, right? He has played a Chaos Strike as well, a Fury as well, an I-Beam, an Immolation Aura. I think he gets, if not back up to 30, certainly well out of range for blitzchung to kill him. Does one Jace beget another?
I wonder. I just wonder what his priority is, because if he still had a 0-mana Moarg, I would say that drawing as quickly as he possibly could is probably the way to go. With like Fellscream Blast Spectral Sight, but now that he doesn't have that, the combo game plan isn't really active, it doesn't feel like anymore. And so yeah, going this way, as you were saying, just playing the Jace and trying to deal some more damage is probably the best you're going to get.
Not the greatest order though, Fel Barrage happening before the board was clear. And it actually is just going to be 6 healing here. Jace sticks, which is a big deal because blitzchung, currently his best way of dealing with it is the meta ping, which is kind of valuable to go face, I should say.
Like, even there, playing the Aldraki Warblades. Wow, okay, that's a big deal. I mean, there's no reason to end with Aldraki Warblades there, because you can just do it next turn. There's no way it costs more than 0, and you just leave your opponent with a little bit less information.
Unless you're trying to play around Stelina or Glide or something.
Okay, fair enough. No, that's actually valid. I take it back then.
Okay, so...
I grow impatient.
I really don't want to face tank the 7, but ideally you save the meta for face, so is it just going to be Kurtrus to kill Jace here, potentially? Is that too slow?
You do have Immo plus Fellscream Blast, which you could do in combination with Spectral Sight, right? To keep drawing through your deck.
But what's he really looking for in his deck?
Exactly, yeah, that's the next question. Why are we drawing?
I think both Jaces gone. Il'gynoth not discounted for blitzchung. He I think his best chance is to try and win in fatigue here.
Wow.
Just hope that Shaxy hasn't discounted his own Il'gynoth.
Metamorphosis to deal 1. He's turning that into a mage ping for 5 mana. Disgusting.
Depressing indeed. But for Shaxy, the question is also, what is he drawing towards, right? His Il'gynoth is, I guess, still dealing a lot because he has a 0-cost I-Beam and a Moarg, but that's the last Moarg, right?
I mean, again, that philosophy you just picked up. Imagine if there was a 0-mana Moarg in hand. He'd be moving towards guaranteed combo lethal in the next few turns.
Can still do a lot because he has the Eldrazi equipped though, because that is going to double up with Il'gynoth damage as well. So let's count it up, I guess. Oh, Fury used now.
Huh.
Oh, okay. I guess he's leaving enough mana for I-Beam and then Moarg and double Fellscream Blast. And you can still Relentless Pursuit, which is 12, right?
Sure, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, I think that's lethal, question mark. It's all from the Eldrazi. Each Fellscream deals 4. So that's 20, and then an I-Beam. Maybe I'm doing the order wrong as well.
Yeah, it's about how many minions are available, right? Because you can't just necessarily target your own things infinitely.
Definitely not. Anyway, blitzchung's feeling the pressure. Now gonna do this to heal up, and then Stelina to disrupt any, from his perspective, hopefully discounted cards from Shaxy. Put that back in the deck, make it full cost again. It's not even healing for that much. It's just 12.
It's just taking what he can get, trying to throw something back into the deck. Maybe a discounted combo piece. If he can see the 0-mana Relentless, the 0-mana I-Beam, that is a big deal. I think you do have to pick that one.
Yeah, anything that costs 0 is just too scary, right? With an Il'gynoth in hand, which is, I mean, it's almost certainly in hand by this point. But the thing is, there's a Sigil of Alacrity available, right? So the I-Beam might just come back and cost 0 again. Oh, sorry, it'll cost 2.
2, yeah. But I mean, if it's in the Outcast, then yeah, it will just cost 1 anyway.
Yeah.
So you're not deleting much off your opponent's overall damage.
Yeah. Okay, funny how this works. So maximum damage for Shaxy, 1 minion on board. So it's, again, 12 from Relentless, right?
Right.
And Ilgi, Moarg, I-Beam is just 6.
Demons?
Not seeing it.
I can count I think I can count 26 here. But I think I'm inventing some mana along the way with that play, actually. I think it's like 22.
I think it's 20, right? Because it's Moarg, Il'gynoth, 2 Fellscream Blasts. Each of them deal 4, right? So that's 8.
Right, okay.
And then the Relentless is 12 with the Eldrazi.
Yeah, I'm looking at going... Oh no, yeah, you're right, yeah.
Okay, well, it looks like he's just setting up for I-Beam and Outcast next turn, but he has 1 more card to draw, so he has to wait here. Is he ever dead on the backswing to Stelina?
I mean, last card is Arcanist, which obviously scales much better with Fellscream Blast than Moarg does, making it go up to 9, assuming there's minions to be able to target, which is probably not the case, rather than an assumption that it's true.
No, I mean, there will be 3 on board, because the Arcanist will cost 1 from the Sigil, right? So Shaxy has...
Oh, yeah, right,
has 30 next turn. He just has 30, right? Because the Relentless is 12, and then the classic 18 from 1 Arcanist, 1 Moarg, Il'gynoth.
Okay, that's pretty sick. That's pretty sick.
I'm glad you pointed out what the last card was. I just completely forgot to check. And that means now, if blitzchung doesn't win this turn, he's just dead, and he can't win this turn. He's just hoping that one of the cards he can, or like one of the cards that Shaxy discounts is not a relevant combo piece.
Curse you ordering in Hearthstone. Why can't it be draw first and then the Sigil of Alacrity? So brutal, but I think you hit the nail absolutely on the head. By our powers combined of me being able to read and you doing complex maths to be able to figure out a lethal, we were able to get there.
Yeah, because I can't read.
Yeah, that wasn't a compliment to you. I was just bolstering myself there. But there it is. In the end, it is going to be the exact damage, as you said. 9 doubled 18. What a way to close things out. Exact lethal, exact mana. Oh.
That is clean. blitzchung giving a wry smile at the end there. Shaxy is going to be the winner of the series. I have to say, obviously, Shaxy did get a better go of it with the Skull and Outcast. blitzchung was just not able to play his Skull for Outcast, at least the first one. Other one came off the top, and he did do his very best to get there, but a lot of the matchup does kind of depend on whether you can discount cards. Those are the cheat mechanics, right? If you land Il'gynoth, land Jace, Moarg, then you're able to actually kill in one fell swoop. And any window where you deal even 20 damage, 24 damage, if you don't kill them, they just heal back up and you're back to square one, and it sometimes comes down to fatigue. I still have some questions though, because I feel like Shaxy could have gotten there a lot more easily by saving that zero cost Moarg, because he had no way of planning the guaranteed one cost talented Arcanist at the end there.
Right, like if he'd drawn, instead of next card, if it hadn't been, the I-beam off the top, it could have been the talented Arcanist off the top, and then he's just out of damage at that point, because if you don't kill your opponent in one fell swoop here, they're going to heal for a lot. They have Moarg Artificer, Fell Screen Blast, Fell Gorger to be able to get another attack buff to go with the weapon they have in play as well. It may not have got there, and then it could have been Shaxy losing to fatigue given all the card draw he put down. So I agree, a little bit of a shaky mid-game there from Shaxy, but the overall strategy once we entered those last few turns, I think showed he knew what he was doing in terms of actually getting the combo online.
It is a little bit similar to the old OTK DH, right? Where there are certain draws where if you go for Skull again, you're gonna risk overdrawing one card, maybe like exactly Il'gynoth, but it's a 1 in, 18 at that point. I'm gonna just throw out that number there. And if you don't overdraw it, you have a guaranteed win condition towards the late game with a zero cost Moarg. I feel like it's worth that risk. But it does mean now, in any case, that blitzchung will be moving on to his Quest Shaman instead. Gonna take a break off that Fell DH, which means that we're looking at the mirror now.
The mirror, the kaiju battle of shamans. And in terms of the list, it's essentially identical, right? I think for both players, neither running Dungeoneer, as is one of the more common cards. Both players running Marsh Spawn, so far as I can tell. The only difference is that 5-cost minion, right? It's the Ogremancer versus the Earth Elemental. And I mean, they both carry benefits and negatives. As you were saying, Earth Elemental completes your quest faster, which is very, very important in this matchup. So my first instinct is to say blitzchung is in the lead. But this deck is almost all spells. Ogremancer can get a lot of work done.
It can. You do have to maneuver it once again that if you're ahead on board, Ogremancer OP. If you're behind and it's only going to take 2 trades and a spell from your opponent to get rid of it, it really feels not that worth it. So again, pretty situational. blitzchung is jamming out right now. You love to see it. He's got the Wand Maker on curve, a Lightning Bloom, which from the Masters Tour, it seems that there's a whole school of players in China that kind of believe that Bloom should be saved not for maximum tempo, but for Brukan to be played immediately, which I think in this matchup in particular makes a lot of sense, right? Your early boards can all get blown up by Perpetual Flame at no drawback if that flame is coming down for the first quest completion.
Exactly, because it's just often about being the first player to get that big threat down, to play the first double charged call, even if it's for 9 mana instead of 10, that can, still get the job done in this matchup. And so cheating mana on the Brukan turn is very important. Even then though, I mean, maybe blitzchung can do this. He has plenty of value. He could maybe just keep completing quest every turn without using Bloom. Although if I had to guess, I think he's more likely to try and go for a tempo swing turn earlier on.
True. I will say blitzchung doesn't have that much board presence, so like currently he's winning, but I don't see any road blocker for Shaxy going for Ogremancer on curve potentially, and that could be a big problem for blitzchung. Even though a lot of the panels we've seen on stream are not tempo dependent in this matchup, they do exist. Like if one player gets down double Feral Spirit and there's just no Perpetual Flame on the other side, that could be a big problem. And I expect the same to be true for this Ogremancer, because currently, how is blitzchung going to deal with it if it comes down on curve?
I mean, forget about
Here's a
dealing
flame.
with an Ogremancer. Ogremancer is the least of your concerns. Look at this hand he's got. Guidance, guidance, guidance if he wants it. Even double overdraft to be able to unlock all his mana crystals more than the standard quest progression would allow. This is the dream in the Shaman Mirror, the absolute dream.
Yep. And he's got the landslide and devolving as well. I mean, obviously it's always insta both, but these are good options to get indeed.
Tradable, yeah, sure, you can just start with Bloom next turn, or, I mean, even if you just unlock one mana crystal next turn, that's probably fine as well.
Shaxy deliberately just went hero power last turn instead of playing Canal Slogger, delaying his own quest completion to make sure he can go Ogremancer without overload this turn, but it's going to be quickly met by the devolving missiles.
Oh!
Okay.
That's the big 4-drop. That's the one you don't want to see.
The blitzchung can kill it with overdrafts if he wants. Like, he can complete quest right now.
You're right. I was going to say he goes Bloom Tiny Toys here, but now that that's in play with Torrent as well, imagine that 4-drop mattering. Imagine.
Sorry. This is just quest 1. I thought it was quest... I mean, he can still get to quest 2, I think, but not play Brukan. It would depend on what comes off of the overdraft, though. So
yeah.
Maybe not. So it's like Bloom, Tiny Toys?
Right.
Torrent?
Yeah, I think it might still be Tiny Toys, right? I'm just wondering if you complete the next layer of the quest as well. If you go like Torrent, Bloom, Coin, Tiny Toys, Lightning Bolt, is that worth it to get an extra 3/3 in play? Maybe not, because you're already very susceptible to the flame.
True. Oh, imported Tarantula, also pretty good. But Shaxy's still on quest 1, right? Which means that the Perpetual Flame will just completely unlock, even if it has to go through 2 more Death Rattles. It's a very clean flame.
It's an insane Perpetual Flame, actually.
Yeah. So... Apologies, it's hard to keep track of quest counters for both players,
Yeah.
but if this is quest 1, as long as the flame happens first, I don't mind. I guess there's a question of whether he wants to copy flame at this point in the game, but... Well? Why? Is he not on quest 1? I didn't see a 3/3 pop out for him. Because he's gonna flame this board at some point, so what's the point in vaulting?
Oh, he's on...
Is he quest 2? Sorry.
Must be on quest 2, right? He's played overload spells so far.
Okay, that's my mistake then. So that means he's still gonna overload for a bajillion with Perpetual Flame?
Or is he not? Has he played any overload spells? Again, apologies. It's very, very difficult to keep track of both players' overload effects.
We'll see if there's a 3/3 or not here.
Oh, wow. He hadn't played a single overload card this game. I mean, this just never happens, right? Like, playing no overload cards until turn 6. It seems crazy, but fair enough. I mean, I do think he messed up by not sending the bolt face, though, right? But even so, it's still wrong, but it's not that wrong.
Okay, I guess. I mean, like... The question is whether or not you play the bolt at all, but I can understand going for it just to progress your quest. But yes, it absolutely should go face then because Perpetual Flame keeps going through Death Rattles. Maybe Shaxy just didn't know the interaction?
Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Well, that's a good card to draw, though, here. Note Taker plus Guidance is one of the more powerful ways to tempo your quest out in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's ever Note Taker for the charged call instead and go for a tempo game plan, but certainly with double guidance, he can just keep up on quest completion, so I agree.
I'll write that down.
Okay, Runic Carvings I feel is extremely slow in this matchup, but the Studies is really good, especially post Brukan. Potentially can just give Zapper to get 2 Brukan in the first place. I'm so tempted to just charge call here.
I think Shaxy is as well. I mean, what gets you a 6-drop at this point, which is okay.
Yeah, Mage Scribe, White Mane Smug Senior, all pretty good.
Yeah.
One thing I have learned is that being more liberal with charged call in the matchup is not necessarily wrong. It feels like on week 1 we were decided you have to save that for post-quest, so you got 2 10 drops. But you can actually buy yourself more time to get to Brukan if you delay your opponent by playing all these threats in the mid-game. Just rely on your deck to give you more charged calls.
Oh, this is just so sick from blitzchung as well, though. Getting Brukan down on this turn, being able to go Lightning Bolt plus Overdraft the following turn. I mean, the only thing that's stopping him now is the fact that he doesn't actually have much of the payoff for Brukan quite yet, which honestly maybe even incentivizes him to go trade Overdraft, despite the fact he's going to unlock like 4 mana crystals, or maybe even 6 next turn.
All depends on what comes off the top here, because a lot of the time as Shaman in the mirror, I find that, okay, they got the Brukan first, but their hand has a bunch of garbage or no cards at all. 1 Guidance top deck, 1 Fire Heart, 1 Charge Call later, you regret everything. blitzchung has tons of good top decks still. But Shaxy is catching up, little by little, to his own Brukan.
Ooh.
Okay, trades it. Funny spec bug indeed. Oh no! That's such a brick! Okay,
So if
it's
he
a dead
goes-
turn.
Note Taker, Bolt, Face. You deal 6, 6 again, 6 again. You could do 18. Ugh. Doesn't even scratch him, really.
I think it's hero power pass here.
I hate it.
Agreed, but like at some point he's gonna need to landslide, right? Because either Shaxy gets to Brukan next turn or he plays a
Yeah.
big board, and you need to be overloaded for landslide to deal 4 post Brukan. So holding on to Bolt for maybe 2 turns later, I like.
Oh, sure. Just straight up pass. I guess it stops your opponent from being able to, like, I don't know, heal with, and yeah, flame to be able to proc their quest, sure.
That's pretty clever, actually. I never thought to full mage it in the mirror and just don't play minions. You don't have to. Raider? Nah, I mean... Okay.
Probably is Trader, actually. Like, Steward of Skulls, you can play... I guess you can play it now for 4 mana and try to hit exactly a 1 mana overload.
Is it not just Feral Spirit this turn? Because he gets Brukan. Although,
Yeah, I
I mean, he
guess so.
could still just go Feral Brukan next turn, and Steward now spends more mana, but then you'll be overloaded 2 turns from now. Okay, just gonna go for the Trader. Actually, trying 1 more chance for Lightning Bloom, I assume, to be able to play Brukan immediately that turn. But
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty bad playing investment opportunity the turn before Brukan, right? It could have been Brukan, then investment opportunity to draw a whole bunch of cards.
yeah, I mean, obviously it's less value, but I think Shaxy's in the mindset where blitzchung is just waiting to play Charged Call, and every turn he delays Brukan. Like, having to spend 5 mana for Brukan is a very, very big deal in this matchup. So
Okay.
he's just trying his hardest to get it down that turn. Again, I'm not sure if that was the right order to go about it, but I understand
Right.
where he's coming from. Oh no, blitzchung head down.
Yeah, I mean, he had so many good draws in his deck, right? He had Serpent Shrine, Marsh Spawn, Fireheart, Charged Call, even Earth Ellie, Canal Slogger. They're not bad. These are just the last cards he wants.
He's doing the thing.
Yeah, overloading just so he can activate the landslide as well. Sure.
He's just all in on the damage game plan now. This kind of unlocks Fireheart as a top deck for lethal too, and he's
Right.
running Overdraft, right? He traded one back, so Overdraft could do a lot of work next turn.
If he gets spell damage, he can deal 16 on the following turn. Double spell damage, he can deal 20. It's still not there.
Like, he needs Fireheart or Charged Call, but for Shaxy, I think this is worth Perpetual Flame. Like, blitzchung, if he had any chance to build board rather than go face there, he absolutely would, right? Like, a bigger board than this. So I think it's worth to Flame, even though that's his last piece of removal that he currently sees. And you should Flame before you play Brukan, right? Because the Flame's going to overload you an extra if it happens after Brukan.
Yes, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, we did test that interaction. Even if there's nothing to target, Perpetual Flame does still overload you an extra mana crystal.
I have overloaded extra on purpose, but only if I've had overdraft in hand for the next turn. So yeah, looks like Flame first, and then you go Brukan investment opportunity. Ideally, want to have as much mana available as possible for Fireheart next turn, because this is turned out to not be a kaiju battle of a game where both players had the 10 cost charged calls. It's looking to be just a face race here, and Shaxy can absolutely play that game with a Fireheart in hand.
Oh, again, both players still missing on the heavy hitters somehow after all this time. blitzchung
Okay, here we go.
finds the higher Fireheart, though. That is the card he needs. We're looking for any burn damage, anything that isn't these cards, which suck. But fine, let's go again.
Oh, guidance into Bloom. Oh no, these are so bad. Deathmatch. One more chance to play guidance if he finds it, and then the guidance can get you Bloom. That's really how you pop off with Fireheart these days. Torrent or Bolt. Oh, this is so close. Even if he takes Bolt, he has 18 in hand, but he has one more Discover, right? So he can technically get a 2-turn lethal at the cost of leaving up a 7-3.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I was wondering if it was ever Tiny Toys, just because you can play that next turn for a full board, but I agree, in the end, there's so many good outcomes you can get off the extra Discover, and you kill it for no overload.
Yeah, this is just not a Tiny Toys game. It's a face race. He gets the opportunity at the end, so that's pretty good. But Shaxy now, guidance in hand, Fireheart also. If this guidance hits Bloom, Shaxy could also just get lethal here.
Yes, okay, yeah, you're not wrong.
You have infinite mana when you play Bloom.
Yeah, no, it's true. Primordial Studies as well. That's infinite spell damage.
Yes. Yeah. Okay,
Just
this is...
Feral, I think.
Yeah. What about both? And then you just go Feral Nothing. That's pretty good, right? I guess you don't even need to take the other Feral here, but the Feral Nothing can stop us. You just transform into Token Shaman. That's really strong. They're all 4/5s, right?
4/5s, yeah, that is pretty good. I guess the resilience against Perpetual Flame is worth quite a lot. Fair enough.
Gonna pop in the Zapper as well. I like this. Board game plan. Suddenly it's a board game plan again. That the matchup changes. Power of guidance.
But then, I mean, on the other side, blitzchung still has those strong board clears. If he can find spell damage to go alongside this Perpetual Flame, it's obviously going to be child's play for him to mop it up. But he's only running Zapper. He's not running, naturally in his deck, Primordial Studies.
He can't clear it at the moment without using like lots of burst, which you absolutely don't want to do. He has 18 from hand with the Portal Bolt.
Oh, there must be a way he can get through all this, right? Like, you can trade in... I mean, if you just trade in 3 of your minions, then play double Perpetual Flame, you're guaranteed to clear?
Yes.
The billion overload.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? Because he really wants to be able to actually kill next turn. I don't think he can get any minion damage face guaranteed, but he can go Slogger, Nothing here. Take some trades, then go for the Flame, so it's not as heavy of an overload. I guess he also fits in a hero power by that point. Oh wait, sorry. Oh, so he's not playing Flame.
Okay.
Okay.
Fighting back with his own board-based plan, taking VTs here instead.
Alright. Just leaves one minion, but that one minion has spell damage. No charged call?
It can't be Fireheart, right? You just don't have enough mana.
I don't think so.
Oh, he's doing it now!
He's desperate for clear here, I guess. Bolt, cheapest one.
I guess, yeah. Molten Blast is pretty good. Like, it gives you a lot of extra ones, but...
Such an icky feeling, sinking 8 damage into a 9-2, but he has to. He's dying on board.
Studies is good. Yeah, we'll happily take that.
And space starts to become a bit of a problem as well.
True.
Zapper. I guess Kobold gonna cost... Phoenix cost 0. Just play that.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if it's Vash or maybe even Steward just to discover a card. I know it's expensive, but...
Ain't no space here. I like the Phoenix. Okay, Perpetual Flame. That's what he was looking for. He just wanted to clear. Otherwise, you don't play Fireheart this turn. Oh, really?
Turning it into a 1-1 instead. Okay, again, it overloads him for less.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Does he actually get to discover this last one? No! Okay, I think that roped out. You 100% take Bolt if you can there, and you play Phoenix because he's going to overdraw next turn. That was a rough pan out for Shaxy, but he's just dead because there is the Novice Zapper off the top!
8, 16, 24. Oh my goodness. Out of nowhere. blitzchung gets the lethal. What was this game? No charged calls played after Brucan whatsoever, and it just became a full-on burn plan. So weird.
We had a short board-based intermission, Derek, but yeah, that's just how Shaman Mirror goes sometimes. It's no way a linear matchup. It's just after Brucan, anything goes. What your guidances give you, that's what you do. If you have the luxury to hold on to burn, absolutely. If you don't clear their board though, you could be dead at a hats drop because all these burst spells, all these board buff, even Vivid Spores on kind of piddly minions or a Canal Slogger can represent lethal over 2 turns. It's just so volatile and honestly pretty fun to watch.
It is, yeah. I'm still reeling from that last turn from Shaxy. Unsure as to whether or not it was correct. Like, he already had a devolving in hand, right, to be able to try and deal with some of it at least. Whether or not that's actually worth it is another question entirely, even if it does devolve a total of 6 times on your opponent's board. Because, I mean, even if he'd saved, the Fireheart for an extra turn, would that even have been better necessarily? Because if you can't play all your spell damage in the same turn, are you ever getting lethal? I don't know.
Yeah, it's really close, right? Because if the turn had been devolving, I think the rest of the turn becomes Feral Spirit for Shaxy there, so he overloads for 2 the next turn. But 6 mana versus 8 mana, and the 8 he would have had next turn for Fireheart could be a big difference. It allows you to go for even more board development or a bigger clear. The Feral was certainly weak if there was Perpetual Flame on the other side, but Fireheart with only 3 mana to work with, I felt was also a little bit sketchy. Like, granted, no matter what he did, if he didn't find healing, he was just dead to the pan out from blitzchung. But I think holding onto Fireheart perhaps gave Shaxy a better chance for lethal of his own in the next couple turns. Like, the big thing here in this mirror is that we never saw overdraft for a big unlock here, which can be a difference maker in the mirror. And it's why some people are running even 2 copies now, Chonsu with the 2. Personally, I'm not a big fan because Overdraft's really not that good unless you get it post-Flame or post-Brucan. But one of it, I can totally understand.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think a little bit too often we're seeing players either having to trade it or using it in an underwhelming situation. Like, there were a bunch of times that game where players just like passed the turn instead of playing the overdraft, when I think it would much rather be a Dungeoneer, for example, for these players who are cutting it. But either way, moving on now, we're going on to Quest Shaman versus Fel Demon Hunter for the final match of the series. A matchup that I think players started out anticipating that Fel Demon Hunter would be far into the lead. But again, as the play of Quest Shaman develops, I do think this comes closer to an even matchup.
I agree. At the beginning, when the Fel Demon Hunter first gained popularity, there were people throwing out hot takes on Twitter, like this absolutely dumpster shaman, and then players like Luna saying, "Are you sure about that, Quest Shaman?" And it kind of makes me miss the times that there would be the streams testing matchups, best of 11, back and forth. Maybe we can bring that back for this one. Because I do think Shaman has teeth in the matchup. Again, it's dependent on turboing out Brucan more often than not, because you can build boards as Shaman that even Fel Demon Hunter can't get through, namely Scrapyard Colossus or Deathwing. Even without Vivid Spores, that's a little bit too much for them to get through. But in the turns leading up to that, it's a tough proposition for the Shaman to not get range or get within range of dying to just Jace, right? Because their only guaranteed healing comes in the form of the Canal Slogger, which is not guaranteed to have a target to rush into because the Fel Demon Hunter isn't playing so many minions.
Well, while you may be absolutely correct in that analysis, for the moment at least, Shaxy is not even considering any chance of dying. He is all in on the aggressive game plan absolutely correctly. This is tough for blitzchung to clear. He can, of course, on this turn. And I think you probably do just go with the double immolation aura to free up your skull. It hurts because those are pretty powerful removal tools. But focusing on your own proactive game plan, I do think is more important.
Such a tough call. It's not only a powerful removal tool, it's the best removal tool.
Yeah.
And using both of them, man, by that point, if there is a board that's greater than 3 minions, you are pretty much just going to feel upset with every clear turn from that point onward, I think, because your best clear tool then becomes Fellscream Blast. But looking at it again, it's not only freeing up 1 skull, it's freeing up 2. So I do agree, blitzchung had to go for it here, but man, if I'm Shaxy, I'm super happy to see that.
Yeah, is this obvious enough to make you think they're playing Skull on the following turn? I mean, I guess you can't really do anything about it. You're not running Neophytes in the deck. But I'm just curious, like when you see this, do you think your opponent is making some weird Skull play, or do you just say, wow, they really wanted to kill this 6-4?
I think you can definitely infer that, especially with the 2 of them coming from off the left, if you were paying attention to that. Honestly, I don't pay attention to where the cards go when I play on ladder, but I definitely expect more from blitzchung and Shaxy. Oh my god!
Okay.
Who needs immolation aura? You just killed them, Derek.
How much damage is this? Like,
right now, just 12, but it gets more
but
real quick.
15, 18, or 17, 18 with the hero power. Like, it's creeping up very, very quickly. He just needs to survive for a couple more turns.
Arcanist off the top is just lethal on 11.
Now we're talking.
Yeah. Back to the old days, Demon Hunter. Imagine. Not
Lord forgive me. I'm back to the old me.
Okay, but Shaxy's pretty close to getting to lethal as well. He's just doubling up on the bolts here. I think this is really
true.
Just to progress the quest. And he can unlock his overload with the overdraft. He doesn't have to go for it this turn, but next turn it's only dealing 3 sometimes rather than 4. So just gonna get it done now. Take the draw. And currently, blitzchung's only board clear is his combo pieces. So if he doesn't get the lethal, he's gonna have to give some of it up.
All right, taking the draw with Chaos Strike.
Oh, you got
He hit it!
Oh
What?
My God.
No way!
Oh my God! It's the 36 on turn 7! It is September 2021. This shouldn't be allowed, Derek.
Sipping his tea. What an absolute killer. That is unbelievable. Blitzchung going through to the quarterfinals, knocking Shaxy out for the week. Cold-blooded. Cold-blooded.
Yeah, Blitz Jam, I think. Really bobbing his head after that, because I think he knows what he did was very, very dirty. It just happens sometimes. You get the perfect skull, you get the perfect top deck. And honestly, even if he hadn't gotten like the lethal right there that turn, I think he was still in a pretty reasonable spot, right? He had a big, at least heal and clear turn with Morg Fellscream, and you're still sitting in hand with a 3-mana Il'gynoth. That's a good feeling. Then you kind of have to be worried about Brukan on the other side, but for it to close out in such a rapid fashion is just a callback to the old days, Darek. I'm feeling my feelings, because I used to be a big OTK Demon Hunter fan.
Yeah, I know, and I mean, even the shake of the head there from blitzchung, he knows exactly what he was doing there. It is a big win for him overall, as again, blitzchung historically has been having a bit of a tough time in Grandmasters, but now finally is looking to be turning things around. A win here, both Dawn and Shaxy going down. This is, I think, honestly, kind of an understated group in terms of the powerhouses. Like, none of the Japanese players who we've been lauding consistently, Gur, Surrender, you know, these players that we're hyping a lot up a lot at the moment. But I think overall, a very, very high skill power group. There was, I agreed with